Welcome to a new daily top AskReddit video. Today's topic.
Military. How does the latest military leak make you feel? Do you and your brothers in arms feel more or less safe? Why? I spent 8 years in naval intelligence, and the reason I can reply to this post is because I never did shit like that. If I had, I would 100% be in prison. So, yeah, it's pretty infuriating. This whole thing is infuriating and honestly terrifying. Any one of us would have been court-martialed and tossed in the brig before we could blink for a leak like this. But under Trump, it's just another oopsie from the frat bros running national security like it's a fantasy football league. This whole admin is a clown show. There's no accident here, just dangerous negligence from people who think rules are for everyone else. It's just another oopsie. It's but one of the oopsies. This is just the one we know about. You can rest assured that these guys have been using their personal phones for everything. They did last time, too. The whole time, because if they were smart enough not to, they wouldn't be a Trump sycophant to begin with. Any service member that did something like this would, rightly, be in a cell, pending a short trial with a guaranteed conviction that would put them in prison for decades. Discussing and planning current military operations is something that must be conducted in a SCIF, and using secured networks and electronic communications specifically made for the purpose. Cell phones are not even allowed in a SCIF. That this conversation took place outside or SCIF, on ostensibly unsecured personal cell phones, using an unapproved and unsecured app, and someone added a reporter to the thread probably breaks over a dozen laws. Edit, lot of people are mentioning some of the people in the chat were outside US, one was in Russia, Moscow. This is significant only because of all the other problems. There is a US embassy in Russia. I guarantee they have a SCIF and secured methods of communication where this conversation could take place. They put a guy in on a 15-year sentence for posting less immediately sensitive information on Discord. Nothing about an imminent attack. They're little still trying low-key to get Snowden, and reality winner enjoyed a stay in prison over leaks. This whole thing is beyond infuriating. It's a betrayal, straight up. Any enlisted person who even whispered about active operations outside or SCIF would be thrown under the damn jail. But these clowns, they're texting strike times like they're ordering Uber Eats, and were supposed to just shrug it off. This whole administration is a clown show. Trump is a joke. We don't feel safe. We feel disgusted. Unfortunately, unsurprised. Accountability should be apolitical. Doubt there will be any consequences or repercussions, and if there is it will probably be a fall guy. Next Ollie North after pardon will get a few million doing a book and talk show tour. No faith whatsoever in the executive branch. Rules for thee but not for me. An active duty member would already be on the way to Leavenworth after having been detained without bail before trial. My wife works in the defense industry with a clearance and I don't think I've seen her this mad in a long time. She was screaming at Lester's newscast about how she'd already be in jail. Last time this pissed was that young lady in Georgia, I think. Rumor or promise or some other such name. Reality winner. Who I believe is still in prison. Edit, my bad, she did get out a few years ago, after serving about 5 years, the longest sentence ever imposed for disclosing classified information to a media outlet. It is a serious breach of operational security and shows an extreme amount of incompetence on the part of the team of cabinet-level officers, none of whom recognized the problem until told by the media. What's worse, 2 of the violators yesterday testifying under oath said that the message contained no classified information, when in fact it did. They either are ignorant or deliberately lying. I remember when you could be impeached for lying under oath about a blowjob. Impeached and removed from office, by replicants and Democrats. Edit, yes it was an autocorrect typo, kinda funny though. I meant Republicans. Also people are reminding me, he resigned before they could remove him from office, but the likely would have. Imagine a president having shame and remorse over something, what a concept. Meanwhile you got Trump racking up felonies and paying off porn stars, and attacking anyone who calls him out on it. What a ghoul. Don't forget, one of the people on the chat was literally in the Kremlin while it was going on. They aren't ignorant. Apparently in a meeting with Putin during the entire conversation. That's totally normal. My brother-in-law formerly worked at CENTCOM, pretty senior role. Never was political. His statement, a complete dismantling of our national security with unwitting disregard and ignorance for their utter lack of understanding for their positions. We are less safe and less powerful, and we directly put our troops' lives at risk. If Hegseth doesn't get fired then the administration sets the precedence for totalitarianism. They are all above the law. I can guarantee you he won't get fired and the USA is definitely on the way to full totalitarianism. Oh, we are already in full Nazi mode. We are rounding up and brutalizing residents in labor camps. Lack of evidence is proof of their sinister designs. If this was an HBO show, I'd turn it off for lousy writing. Any one of us who's worn the uniform knows this would be a career-ending, life-destroying offense for anyone except the people at the top, apparently. If an E4 had done this, they'd already be in cuffs, stripped of rank, security clearance torched, court-martial date set. No one would be arguing over, was it technically classified, because it wouldn't matter. The recklessness alone would be enough. Sounds like a domestic enemy, eh? An anti-American Russia operative would do the exact same stuff that's been going on. There's no doubting that. I'm not sure which is worse, the incompetence or the fact that not one of those involved or their superiors have apologized or accepted any blame. Instead, they're deflecting and trashing the reporter, organization he works for. It's equal parts incompetence and entitlement. The entitlement part comes from an absolute confidence that they are completely free to disregard the multitude of laws and rules they broke. This, just a mistake, narrative is complete BS. Anyone who hasn't been lost in the wilderness for the past 12 years has seen multiple federal cases involving the mishandling of sensitive government information, so let's take a look at who is involved. A National Security Advisor, the VP, the Secretary of State, the Director of National Intelligence, the Secretary of Defense, the CIA Director, the Treasury Secretary, White House Chief of Staff, White House Deputy Chief of Staff, others, regardless of their qualifications, or lack thereof, for those positions. Every single one of them has been heavily involved in politics through numerous sensitive data leaks and scandals, with pretty much all of them being among vocal critics of HRC's instance. Yet did a single member of this chat, at any point, stop this chat due to it being on Signal? No, and why not? Because Signal was a feature, not a bug. The laws and rules of their respective departments, agencies be damned. Chats via Signal, free them from FOIA, Presidential Records Act, etc. So when they talk about adding Goldberg to the chat being a mistake, they're trying to distract from the fact that the mistake was only possible because they were using Signal in the first place, and ultimately, what the real motives for using Signal were. Ex-Royal Navy here, not US. If I had leaked anything remotely close to that, I would lose my job straight away and be put in prison. The incompetence is utterly remarkable. Basic shit. If nothing happens to them, then it is a sure sign that the administration has gone too far and needs stopping by any means. The power is with the people to do something about this. Unprecedented. Understand 100%. Former naval aviator here, F-18 to be exact. It may sound stupid to say, but when I read through these and saw specifics about when F-18s would be striking, it made my stomach turn. Having flown several combat missions, it made me feel uneasy and a bit scared. Yeah, I know that we were always relatively safe up there and have little to nothing to complain about compared to those on the ground. But the thought of the enemy knowing where I'll be, when I'll be there, and what I'll be doing, and knowing that I still have to go and do it anyway. That's just fucked beyond words. It isn't just the danger to our pilots but also to our national image abroad. Hypothetically, what if Goldberg hadn't sat on those messages? What if he leaked them online right away? Iran saw the messages, moved their people out, and moved a bunch of child hostages there instead. Then, sit back with a video camera and live stream the US bombing a bunch of non-combatants and children. I had a TS/SCI, above top secret, clearance. I left the service 8 years ago. If I said the name of any of the programs I worked on, just the name, which is chosen at random to avoid indicating what the program is about. If I said it online, in a group chat, even out loud to my spouse, and the military found out, I would be arrested inside 48 hours. I would be charged and sentenced for it. And the things I worked on aren't nearly as sensitive as the shit they were talking about. Remember the hubbub about Hillary's emails? This is orders of magnitude worse. That said, I'd argue it's not as bad as Trump keeping those documents in a Mar-a-Lago bathroom. They shove training down your throat and emphasize the penalties for mistakes such as, even though that classified folder has nothing in it, it should not be visible unless in use and being handled by an authorized individual. They stressed how pieces of information being leaked can be gathered over time to get the entire picture. Here we have the picture and then some. People have been arrested and imprisoned for much less. The double standards are real. Not entirely on topic, but what struck me is how much TS content is actually boring as fuck. I always thought it would be really juicy and interesting, and then when I got clearance and started handling it, it's mostly mundane and dull. Yeah, broadly true. I mean, when I was working in that sort of industry, stuff like IP addresses were operational capability related, and thus classified, but I'm sure it won't come as much of a shock to find out that a lot of places use 10xxx just like so many other places using private internal address ranges. But even so, 10xxx in the context of this system with that codename was super secret. And yes, I could have seen prison time for revealing an IP address. We are being run by a bunch of frat bros, which means impulsive and overly emotional decision making and zero fucking IQ of long-term strategic planning. They are fucking underqualified and grossly incompetent for their roles. Frat boys and incels. The Trump side of frat boys. The Elon side are the 4chan incels. Hey now, that's an unfair characterization. Pete Hegseth isn't just a frat boy. He's also a dysfunctional alcoholic. I once chewed out a fellow NCO for blowing OPSEC for a mission I was on, after the fact. Had he done something this egregious, I would have checked my weapon into the armory after our discussion. Someone in my unit got yelled at by the battalion CO when he put that we were going to Afghanistan on Facebook. No dates or anything, just that our unit was going to be deployed to Afghanistan. If I started posting blow-by-blows of our missions in Facebook chat, well, I doubt I'd have an honorable discharge.